It's Saturday, October the 11th, 2025. My crazy neighbor story, part 2. Now, I'm doing this video as a way of documenting the story. And I'm going to post it on Facebook. It's not really for people to watch. But the last video I did last week was really therapeutic for me. Just listening to myself talk, and it made me look at things from a different perspective. Now, just to recap quickly, last year my neighbors widened their driveway, and all of their backfill, this big mountain, it was like a whole truckload full, they dumped it on my property. Now my property is lower there than theirs, and there's a slope, and in some places it's very steep. So they covered all this up. They dumped a bunch of rocks and stuff, and they told me that it was a mistake. Then they told me that this was to rebuild a wintertime toboggan slope that they tobogganed on before I came to live there with their kids. So they basically replaced the snow that accumulates in the winter with backfill, which was basically these big rocks and clay that they dumped onto my property, changing the slope. And what this gave them was they were able to widen their driveway without spending $30,000 on a retaining wall. Okay, now they did this without asking me. They kind of, well, anyways, that's a story in the other video. I don't want to get into it. I don't want to make this too long. But basically, they didn't ask me. They thought that I wouldn't mind. And they played me for a while. I didn't want to get into a neighbor war. Really, I didn't. So I did my best to handle this with kid gloves. Like, people make mistakes. They said their contractor did something, and all these kind of stories. And I just wanted it taken out, you know. And if the guy cut my grass a couple of times, to say sorry, that would have been it. Like, I don't like to get into these kind of situations. You live next door. I mean, I pass their house every day, going out and coming back in. So that didn't work. I made a complaint to the city. Now, I thought this was going to solve things, but apparently it did not. Because what I found out is they have friends in high places. Okay? Now, this is something that this guy told me years ago, but you don't remember these things. But anyways, you don't think that these friends will do stuff like that, you know? Like, you know, they put you to the front of the line or something, you know, give you some special favors, but not to do this, what happened to me. So in this whole craziness that was going on, I started to wear a little camera on my shirt. Sometimes I put it in my pocket here. And I recorded 2 conversations. Like, I didn't expect to have conversations, okay? I was going out to clean my property because that part of my property was overgrown. It's a place where I put branches, and I have a big place, and that's the side where there's no windows on that side of the house. That's not where the driveway is, so I don't basically go there more than cut the grass. Okay, so the fact that I used that area kind of got overgrown, and I piled grass and all kind of stuff. Not grass, but tree branches and vines grew over. The place was blocking my neighbors, so I had a very isolated place, and I really liked it. So I didn't want to. It wasn't priority for me to clean it, and you know, some of the trees, my branches were. Some of them are touching the ground. I mean, but the whole place looked magical. So I liked it. Plus, I had wild berries. It was beautiful. So I didn't. It wasn't a priority to clean, but you know, I knew I had to do it, and that was the year last year that I wanted to clean. And my neighbor who came over months before they did their construction, um, came over and wanted to help me because I went out there and I was looking at what I want to cut right away. And like the berry bushes, I mean, yeah, they were in the middle of the grass, but they weren't due. So, why cut them now? I'd wait till at least I get some berries. So he came over and he wanted to help, and I didn't want his help, but he just didn't want to go away. So I told him, I said, well, okay, go cut some of these things. He has this like machine that cuts stuff. And he told me that he's doing his driveway and all this. And he told me that his wife had a great idea. And this idea was to take the leftover backfill and to dump it onto my property. And he said it was in an effort to fix some, I think he said it was land erosion or something. And like, this is on my property, and there was never any land erosion. Okay, land erosion is when dirt is falling down and accumulates in another spot. It gets washed away with water or stuff like that, or just falls on its own. So I didn't say anything. I just basically walked with him to a spot where he dumped a bunch of rocks more than 10 years ago in 2013. What happened then was I have these two big maples, and they're right on the property, near the property. And I had a big branch that was way over his garage, and a good storm, and it's going to come down. So with his help, we cut it down, cut down a few other big branches that were going, over the property. And I appreciated his help so much. The thing is that my chainsaw broke, and so I left some of the big logs were a chainsaw broke. Yeah, it broke, but it wasn't powerful enough. It was electric. Anyways, I left some of the logs near the trees, and this was at the front part of the property. And so he was doing, this is in 2013, he was doing some work in his yard, and him and his wife there, and he came over and he asked me if he would be able, because his wife again, she had this great idea, because my roots stick out. This is normal for big maple trees. These things are like 70, 80 feet tall. So it's normal for their roots to come out of the ground. And he had some backfill that she said that it would be great if if we can put it there, it would be great. And you know what? I appreciated the guy's help with that tree, with all the cutting. I really did, because I don't know if I would have done it by myself. It would have been a lot more difficult, but so I appreciated it, and I, backfill. I thought it was like brown earth. So I said, yeah, just put. And I went out, came back a while. That summer, I remember I didn't, I think I was between jobs. It wasn't, I think then. Anyways, so I came home and I see that he's dumping a wheelbarrow, and it's all rocks, like jagged rocks. I could see it from the street. And I said, hey, what are you doing? And he said, well, that's the backfill you said I could put. Now, he had asked me, do you want to see it? I didn't think it was other than brown earth. Like, how would somebody in any right mind ask to dump on the front part of the property a bunch of jagged rocks? These were stones about the size of baseballs and up to a volleyball. And I didn't think. Anyways, so he stopped. I told him to stop, and he said, do you want me to take these out? I felt stupid that I didn't take the time to go take a look. Okay, so I assumed things, and I made an ass out of myself. So I had another pile of rocks further back in my property from a rock garden I eliminated, so I figured I would just pile these on with the others when I go get rid of mine. So I felt sorry for the guy, because he was all sweaty, and his wife makes him run ragged. So anyways, So I took one for a bro, kind of, and I said, oh no, just leave it. I'll take care of it. And then my wheelbarrow broke. I had a lot of issues. So it just stayed there. Weeds grew in, and every time I would cut the grass, it would piss me off, obviously. But anyway, so this guy comes here last year. So this is 11 years later, and he wants to. His wife again has an idea, and I told him about those rocks, and he said, "Oh, my wife Linda got so mad at me when I put them. So why didn't you take them out?" So there was a red flag. He lied. So I told him. I said, "Well, okay." I said, "When you're doing your renovations, your driveway expansion," I said, "do you mind to take all these rocks out, the ones you left here over 10 years ago?" And he looks at me and he goes, because I also told him I had the intention of cleaning up that area, all the branches and everything. I said I was going to be renting a chipper, or I'm going to take it out and the city will take it, whatever, but it's going to get cleaned. And he looks at me and he goes, "Do you want me also to get a chipper and to clean out your property?" And I thought that was very weird of somebody saying that, because he said it in a kind of weird way. So anyways, told him, I looked at him and it's just not even totally joking. I said, "Yeah, why don't you do that? See if he'd do it." So anyways, the dumping happened, and the whole thing with the city inspector, I recorded with my little camera. I didn't expect to have it on me because I didn't think anything would go awry, but it actually did. So anyways, in the end, not to bore everybody, in the end what happened is, what I found out this year, like, the city didn't want to know anything about taking this out. The inspector said that this was repairs to problems I had on my property, and my neighbors paid to fix them behind my back. But this year I found out that there was no permit taken for this work. I always thought there was. So if there was no permit taken, why did the city inspector fight for their right to keep this stuff on my property? Like, in the conversations I had, 2 conversations I had with Linda, the neighbor, in there she basically told me that her contractor has special rights to work on somebody's property if it's to protect hers, and they don't have to tell me. To a certain extent, they don't have to. They can work to a certain extent. I don't know what that extent was. She also makes the connection that the city was involved, so that's not very good. And I also found out that they put a permit in for a fence. So I asked the city if I can see the permits for that job that was done for the driveway. That's how I found out there was no permit. Now, the city didn't respond. This was from an online search. The city did not respond to any of these requests. Their position on this whole thing, and I got my last email last week from an inspector, he did not mention any of my concerns about document fraud and stuff like that, because my claim is that if they put that project in for the fence, are they showing the property line, the slope of the property? Is it the modified version as existing? Okay, so they're doing a fraud. And this thing about this whole job not having a permit, they don't even want to acknowledge this. They stay away. So they keep telling me that the city has no involvement in this, even though I have emails and video of the inspector otherwise, that the city has no involvement and it's a civil case. Okay, so now I am going to pursue this further. Of course, I'm going to make a request or a complaint, whatever you want to call it, to the ombudsman, because I don't have a choice. Like, nobody wants to talk to me. But what am I going to do with this whole situation? So here's what I thought was the best way to do it, because you start getting with the lawyer thing. You stay away from that. Those people, they do stuff to make you fight more so they can make more money. Okay, because if they settle it quickly, they make less money. So anyone that's successful in whatever they do, they know how to make more money in it. So anyways, so what I'm going to do is I am going to send them access to those videos because they haven't seen it. They don't remember what they said. Okay, so they can see how much they basically screwed themselves because they really did. So I'm going to send these videos to them so that they can see it. That's going to be tonight, just 2 videos. Tomorrow I'm going to send the other 2 videos and what I'm planning to do. And what I'm planning to do is the following. I'm going to give them a chance to take it out, to be nice, okay, because they really have no right to put their stuff on my property. They really don't. So they're going to get a chance to take it out. But before that happens, on Monday, in the spirit of Thanksgiving, sharing, I am going to bring back some of it onto their property. Because it is theirs, it has no business on my property, and they can't keep it there. So there is nothing to stop me from doing this. This is not any way illegal, okay? So I'm going to be doing that. Now, what is the other problem that they have? What I see is that they came off looking like idiots with all their friends, because this is like a friend group. There's a lot of people involved in this. There's a lot of people that know what's going on, and I heard stuff too, okay? Because it's like some of the people in common, and a good story like this likes to go wide. It's like wildfire. I mean, if you think about it, it's like this scam should have worked very easily. And how does it work? Well, everybody's in on it. They're getting let's say paid, maybe not, okay, but the way it would work is that somebody has to be tricked. So it's me. And they didn't spend any time tricking me. They were supposed to get my consent, and they didn't spend any time doing it, like nothing. They just assumed that I wouldn't mind, so they didn't say anything. But they told their friends that they did. So in the videos, you have Linda talking about how unreasonable I am. And all the conversations I had on the topic was with her, was recorded. So she's gonna be screwing herself. She did. They're looking like a bunch of idiots in front of all their friends, like with all their friends. I think, me personally, because this is not a personal thing that they did against me, okay? They're trying to get away saving a lot of money. Now, I don't believe that it was exactly like target. I'm not, it wasn't done to screw me over somehow. But they didn't spend any effort to actually do it. And now they got caught. It's going to be very difficult to hide. Even if they take out all the backfill, they still have the drawings and stuff. That's fraud. And I'm going to point that out. I have to, because otherwise I'm going to get screwed somehow, because this is not right. Okay, so I think that this is for them. It's a kind of like a karma. And the reason I say that it's a karma event is because these guys are educated. Like, she's an exec, a paralegal exec for a large pharmaceutical, so she's not an idiot. But she made so many mistakes, like big mistakes, that somebody like that shouldn't make. They really screwed it up. Not only her, but her husband too. And they all they had to do was basically to get to know me better. And I am easy, They could have said something else. They could have said, listen, why don't we clean out all these branches, and we'll make this hill look nice, so that you can mow your lawn, okay? And we're gonna put grass on it, and we'll cut the grass for a year. Let's say they did that. How much would that cost them? Not much more. They would still be saving at least 20 grand, okay? Because from that 30 savings, they still have to pay off the other people. They don't do this kind of special favors for nothing. But they were greedy, and this whole time, in all these negotiations, all they offered was to remove some of it. That was in the end, a percentage, as they said. Before that, John offered to help spread it on my lawn. Like, and he said he's gonna do all the muscle work so I don't, I don't strain myself. What do you say to somebody like that? Like, what can you say to somebody like that? I was speechless, and the guy one time he almost lost it. I thought he lost it, man. His face changed colors. He was talking funny, like as if that they're not good enough. That they're it's like they did me a favor and I didn't appreciate it. That's where he came off. It was very confusing. The same thing like that whole thing with the inspector. I mean, I called for illegal dumping and vandalism, okay, because they came on Friday the 13th when I went to work to clean, to take some away and to make it look like it's a grass planting. And then the inspector said it was grass planting, but I said on my property. Anyway. So what I'm doing is it's going to be, I want to make it kind of like popular. Like if somebody does something so cool and sneaky, okay, they should be proud of it. Like they told their friends. That's why they're getting laughed at. But is it worthwhile to tell even more? And more people know on how smart you are, like how good you did your stuff. You know, like they basically shined a light on all of their crooked friends. You know how much, I don't know if, you know, their friends must have figured it out that that nobody tried to hoodwink me, and they basically relied on their buddies at the city to bully me into accepting this as necessary. You know, it's really crazy. And even in the video, I believe that the inspector was the one giving orders on what to do, how to fix it, because these guys basically just dumped it in with all the rocks and everything and just left it for 2 months, over 2 months. And the inspector was, I believe, telling them to get back in and do something, but I had turned my camera because I have a security camera system, and it was never pointing towards that area because it was all overgrown bush and dead branches. So the night before, I had turned it at 10 o'clock at night. Why? Because Thursday I wasn't feeling good about the whole situation, and I bought myself a whippersnipper brush cutter slash for a ton of money. But I came home early and I started cleaning, and the next day, that's when my neighbor with the contractors came in. But when I was cleaning, I noticed in some of the bushes there was about 2 wheelbarrows of sod that was dumped. And I stepped back onto the street and I said, who the hell would have dumped it? I looked back and the properties are pretty big, and so you're gonna walk a long way. So it's not a sneaky thing that somebody could do from a neighbor from away, and there's nobody that lives across the street exactly. So the only place was the place that had sod done, which was my next door neighbor. So 2 months after I told him to remove all of the crap, he still dumped the sod. And this is so funny because in the video that I spoke with Linda, she really gets tripped up on the sod thing. Oh, that's funny. And she also kind of does a Freudian slip where what she did was criminal. That was one of the things that tipped me off to look further, because I didn't think that anybody could do this. Like, I didn't think it was this easy to do, because this is official documents, you know. Like, what are these people thinking of? Because they filed that this year in April, and in 2024 there was no permits filed for the driveway expansion. Because I asked the city if I can see the permits for the driveway expansion, and I wanted to see how it affected my property and if the slope was detailed as existing or was it modified. That's I wanted to know. So they didn't get back to me. Actually, one of the emails I got was that they're so busy and there's a 6-week wait. 6 weeks. Okay, so that's where it is. It's at a crazy point. Well, crazy point. I mean, it's not crazy. I mean, I'm just gonna shovel some of the stuff back onto their property. I'm gonna start the thing going. And if they have any goodness in their hearts, they're going to get contractors to come next week and have it properly removed. I'm going to make sure that this is all videotaped for evidence. Because what I'm worried about is that this is going to be removed, and then in 2 or 3 years later, when things get forgotten, they're going to come out and they're going to say that I removed existing earth, because here you see it in the drawings, and then I damaged their driveway, because without the retaining wall, their driveway is going to sink. Okay, because it's going to push out the steep slope. There's not enough earth to hold back the weight. That's why they couldn't have a wide driveway years earlier, as was told to me by John. So anyway, so this is it. I'm going to make an update when one will be due, when one will be available, and aside from that, that's it. That's it. I don't let this stress me out. I'm not taking this as a personal thing. But the video I did last week, I watched it a few times, and I really appreciated the comments. Okay, from the 2 comments I did. I don't want to mention names just in case somebody doesn't want to get mentioned, but I appreciate it. Thank you. It helped me think, and it made me feel like like I'm not alone. So thanks. And in all that, I just want to say something. This is going to be out to the universe, kind of. Bridget, thank you for blessings received. And to everybody, have a great day. Blessed be.